like fire when you know it'll burn away. Won't you be mad at water for flowing endlessly? So don't be mad at me when I loved you every day. Oh, I'm just being eager. Don't push away. Twisted thoughts named your own. Butterflies twisted all around the torture, all around the ring. Your arm can't hear the sound of you. Sending quick messages for the intrusive. You're learning for the warning, for the testament, the hate, falling in the most of all, the warning of you just for. Why is it? Why do I feel like it's this team? Heart pitter patter for the thinking about what it could be. Wish I could make it stop. Constant thoughts and internal thoughts. Start finding hate, the phone, and love of the truly people. Want to stop hoping to thinking about you. My springs for life through open windows and cracked pavements in the year of your testament to the revival. Birds are eager to switch to their song for the morning of the remembrance and try not to let myself fall through victim. Okay. March yet to make the martyr out of me. Much tower over the body so it will understand the triumph of this and how you got to do it. I won't wait for too long to see what awaits this fight each other. Living in the bitter mill of the life on standby for the nice to feel the soft breeze in my face and serve it. With the gentle guiding tools that unknown to the wind scatters a little seeds of encouragement and for this to be the older waiting for the take a day for this time away. In a sensual way, the rosy cheeks, this body's in a layer of the monitor, the silk seats, his final legs, she'll intertwine for the clock that ticks away the time for this uncharged. Places are often missed, this and handing yours for the mouth and the mind for the final sensual way to unwind. Undisclosed purpose of the high wish upon a star for the something will change enough for the misery stage. Answer me, please. I find no globe for the plan for this to be. Whether or not I deserve it, can't without this torment for the each night for the sitting, the wait for the reason to rise to the door, about the waiting for the I am for the know the purpose, and the heart to believe in and know the thought it was worth it. This to be the here and taking that space for the while everyone else has claimed their place. This fine reason what you did for creating me, I can find calling on you for the delivery may empty for the nothingness. Nonetheless, I thank you. Describe about the leadership and the culture for the attention for the nothing I needed for nothing. No, for the I didn't need for the space of the time for your own, whenever the window needed to touch. Sometimes I hate to pay attention for this, sometimes I can't speak, but pushing away for the isolated beginning to break for this and feel the beat. Can't stand my own mind sometimes, and that's the time for the feeling you're talking about for the attention, the severity, capacity for the mention of the attention for the because of that. You need to hear me out for the purpose that it won't work. They send up for the center for the begin to hurt. And maybe I can do this. Connect this yourself for isolated for the distance and make it last. This is trying to see the sympathy you can't tell the words. This is about listening for the verbs you can express. Just please me, be the back and for the image and possibility. Opportunities you never know. The lance pierces me like 1,000 tiny daggers with blades sharp with the annoying of the shower. Shine and finally polish the skin. The scale tipping you back for the swipe love of the stage God's sight. The light for the chops and the lines and the butcher for the hatching of me. Hope your soul for the floating and free in the wind. The summer's here for the time is right. Despite the house being filled with familiar faces, disease and something determined to walk. The light the stage for the behind the eyes flicker the mad grand desires. The skies are dancing in the middle of the floater back to the border over the border. You might for the reason to the one dry. The smile touch the sky and love the moon that ever storms for the rewrote the rules that reshape the norm. The new particularly for the good see for the founder. Forward. Do not deteriorate. I found it was fully integrated for the life, for the privilege and the luxury, for the amazing energy, for the air, for the absolute love to spend the time breathing. And the miserable observance for the standing upon the splendor, the hold the fastering wounds, the splitting and wiser than each passing day. The day spent downward spiral with the basics disturbed. Necessities reach a window to the bottom and see the suffering. Feel it for the supposed positive change and the blue dust to feel such light for the suffering of the sea. Where we are with the waters and over the for the hope of the passage to be safe. Seas are too weight live fast to carry the odor for the rotting of flesh. There for the bidding for the country, you could see the mist explosion for the home that becomes that for the borders and there for the final reason for the rubber area for the name of the ownership of the words of his name. So God for the written for the life of the love for this other now to speak for this unbearable stretching under the horrible over the bear to witness it behind the bright screens. I squeeze my eyes shut with the bruising under the gripping of the skin, and my arm for the crowd to please in the center. Life of discipline over the effort. Souls of observation to feel for the journey, the turning ahead to the swimming the pockets and the desperation for those who wither in the way for the wither of their own right. Without the strapping or the strapping over that sight and ropes that is around the next to this piece of the scattered across the surrounding soil. Weep is for us all. We've been made for the night, for this is already here for me, for the color of your eyes already familiar. Both light and dust walk through the shadows of the side for the center for the heart cannot hide. I stumble across it more than I can soar, for this is the kindness and the lines of path that I've worn. And the spoken words and I can't defend for the saying upon the when I live in the end. The broken rules and the bended the few for the try to keep it my spirit true, but enough for the failure and the waste that will disguise his final life, believing in it. Or leaving it behind the eyes and hold the regret for the also grace. Longing for the
between you and a stance. Stay for a day. Crave silence. I know I needed it before. Kneel, the rugged heart in the tarnished bronze hangs heavy. The bones just a clapper swings fall. Casey the dreams of the rusted blood. Idle rival, but turning it into something you beneath to be hopeful. Equal parts, you hated the love and the equal. Darkness at the ends of where the daylight starts just struck you with warmth and connect the eyes to those days of the whole summer skies. Your pupils filled with pain for the gathered clouds, heavy rain, which above the stormy gates, which houses smiled in warmer days. Hearts beating at your core, hold that beyond the deepest floor holds. Oceanic surface hides the violence of taking the lives that it takes again forever for the feeding and feeding of fed and over the sinking along your bed for the eternally enraptured for those sunny days beyond the tide. You may want to try to choose your own salvation. Try to figure out another way of exchanging the destiny with someone else. You may have to trying to figure out another way to escape the horrible demise for. Realize your repentance and might have been the answer for your salvation again. Must be touching the lobes of the hair, but for the back of the head, for the sun, for those of the anointed, for the people to find again. Another solution for you, the major problems within the hand of enemy, for your savior, for the internet. You must try to confess that this is normal. Reaching at the highest level of your potential for the within the world to find again. In the mirror, smiles, I took the head to think. Wait, I paused before the blink. It was a reminder of the younger days that have reflected the smallest ways of the mirror that smiles with the disguise of the softness is born from. Sharper eyes, though I know where the should. Face that keeps me hiding inside. And the owl of the stars and the snowy night for the stars are bright enough for the moon to shine through the trees. And awaken for the night is still the day, for the day is the night, for the in the clouds. And the lightest fly of the feather for the almost invisible slightly. Carry soft along the way for the fountain of the quiet surf. The moonlight will over them, but the surface there for the fleeting of weeks and the beyond the boundless sky. For this is now the reason why. No sorrow here for no bitter infant, no need to plead. The heart to bend for the time to unthread for the what's became, for the just sins and grace. This to keep no name for the winds and no across the sea for the laughter that moves and set it free for the not the lost hold, the held over the bound to save for the terror that's soft along the way. Times a greater piece of sees a grave and green grass and the other side of that in between. They say today you seem to be here for the state, for the day, for the humorous and get for the remorse of the thoughts that you impure. Struggle over the agony for the would you have the greatest silence over the need. Tapper swings and fells and distant casing dreams, and this is all. I don't rather never the needed to be hopefully over the equal parts struck by the connecting eyes, and this is when the hope and hold the summer skies and the one to choose in your own. Carry, soft, a long way, silver stair fleet, weeks about the sky, for this is a reason why. Glen the pollen over the bright wings and the parted over the degree, for the defy for the winds of the catastrophic, over the, you could be the frozen footsteps, this is heaven, it's in the grief. Echoes of something beautiful stretched, this the final weeks, felt endless for the love, it isn't something to hope for, the simply is no wait for this, a tether for the no need to stay. Its fate unravels us and won't more. Just to let you slip into the gentle tender seams and sinking over your thirsty earth. This is the wind that carries your name for the hear it now. Now it's a loss, but it's a whisper of something beautiful, drifting, lingering, still real for the faith that shifted this. I won't resist to this to love you anyway. Caspers the words are left behind, and he is not friendly as that ghost to say in between. For the yet to play for the same team, for the unseen members of the weave, for the mind, for this the eyes of this. The morning and the eyes meet the mind, for this it doesn't know it. Something is missing in the Nova sorrow again, for the despite the burning notes, and this is saying her name, moving on for the matter matters for the weather it is. For the remember for the what it was, this running. Roaming with a lost expression for the lost tribe, for the circling and the dive, for the vulner in the eye, for the something that keeps the blanket tight, for the rolling of the no wonder for the getting up to seems so much suffocating for the summer is here. A mantis cannot get the taste of the dearest of the memory for the saying in the war I find waking up is the same. It's not the same. But the weight that not brought you back for this to come to wishing for the forget your presence, and I wish that I didn't have to wish for the allowing you to share myself again, for the mind, for the not give you the opinion, for the think, the love, for the bear, for the bear, for the over the seer, for the only the one, the soul, for this the love, the question, for the have, the hold, for the love, for the all, for the wood, and happiness isn't to define your love. But it wasn't, doesn't feel like for the moment before, for the one, it feel like the silence of the war, for the not peace, and the silence of the
One of the seven scream for the inhaling for the before the check of the open to the seconds with the body for the isn't realizing this is the left of the body and the clinking of the dick for the torn for the iniquities for that for the manicure for the loans just to blood of the deeds the anthem for the housing of the shattered teeth of the deceitful on the outer field. And now there's a church never define the nail for the between the tension over the tenor for the tension over the thrones of this crouch kind of final film standing over the I'll be there for the smiling and final straight up for the drinking over the serenity for the creating over the war I can find the only patient I can hear. But before the not the piece of silence of the stretching over the you can have it between it's broken enough for the feeling is so unusual with the cater with the silence and the cadence. The barn for the step of the through the crack and for the tearing into the existence for the turning back for the something unnamed. You find for the universal language and never the moment to work the time to just a tutor for the stand strong for the realizing this wretched and over the season for the rap of the year eating. Held out of bread crumbs to have other crumbs so that there were whole meals ate them for the didn't have to know better for this but you lit the joint for the ticket shot for the plate in the part for the girl who didn't mind for the being the second for the smaller for the Now I don't want to feel the silence of the war for the another pieces, and the silence for the just to be the stretching of the skin for the one of the silent scream for the inhaling of the before the check of the holds for the hold, the cold, the seconds for the body for the isn't realizing this is the love for the goodbye. And the clinging of the deep for the chlorine for the nudity, for that for the manicure for the lungs, for the just bug of the deed, for the anthem for the pausing of the shattered teeth for the just be the more than I don't feel. And that is in church, you never define the nail for the between the tension over the tenor for the tension over the throne to this across the kind of final standing over the I'll be there for the smiling and smiling straight up for the drinking and for the serenity for the creating and for the war I can find the pace and I can hear me. And the moments before the not the piece of silence for the stretching over the had between is broken enough for the feeling is so unusual for the cable with the silence to be the cadence. The barn for the step of the through the cracking over the tearing to the existence for the turning back for the something unattained. Defined for the universal. Language and never the month to worst of times to disappear for the stand strong for the realizing this wretched over the season for the rapidly heating. You were head out of bread crumbs to head out of the crumbs so that there were whole meals eaten and you didn't have known better for this creeping over. But you lit the joint for the take a shot for the plate and the part for the girl who didn't mind for the being a second for the small for the being silent. You taught me how to disappear with the spot for the told me I was almost enough for the believing you're almost in something you're proud to be for this and wonder watch you away for the shit and never the scrub your name. I wanted the truth and you knew that. Dang of affection like a prize at the end for the myself rage, just for the earn what you should have been given for the sitting of the records and not crying, the remembering and the wondering and why I let you. You never saw me in anymore for the never to be held up with your blurry gaze. This is fine to see me now for the learning of the one that's more than Qurans. I find what's the outcome for the creeping. Meld up with the rock for the past that grabs up for the going and remember you. Think too fast and never gonna remember your eyes for the disability welcome me more for the levels of the confusion for the seeking the clarity amongst the fall. Where are my tears then? There was a time when the sorrow split me open for the poured into the salt water. I can find this and that's this thing beyond the eyes writing for the permission for the never the rising for the shape of the grief and the never the knock on the wind out of me for the grace speak of the barking. We talk a lot for the word of music new for the what they couldn't say for this lately for the nothing breaks and there's loud enough for the sharpening and you can find the healing and for the full of cup just to find a single drop. And people say that's the strength for this drought. Silence for the scream for the should be for the standing in the flood for the dry cheeks and this is heavy bone. Mr. Relief for the cracking open the mess of the surrendering. If the proof of this is stillness off inside that I can find it enduring and quietly, politely and wondering if the tears can hide never ever gone for good. Fishing a ghost fire that swells this shore. Tempest of desire crafting solace and with the heart's affair. Fire gray beyond meaning and showing your hope and the following over the immortal for the word for the alt and the world remains. Scratch on the glass and the wicked erase for the scene great. Others and losers for the where the tears are for the sorrow that split me open and poured into the salt water. I can find a vision that goes in the heart's fire. The sunlight under the ground, the shadows around a silhouette for the temporary heart. Wish I could redo what's sitting there for the writing letters to you for the like guns and roses for the never the ring for the temper in return for the distance, the ashes, stars of the sight for the running down the times of the war for the life, the stillness and the storm for the chaos around me for the feeling and focus and energized, this fine depression still. Giving up. Stop talking. Think about it more for the one to be left alone for not to care about what's this fun. The reflection of the grief that didn't have. The shore for the catching of the wave for the forgotten about how to be still. On the arm. Fun of rejection is anxious and entrapment. I've been surviving that. Escaping with the laugh and the final vision for the dwelling upon it for the I am too. Sort of. The accent for the frantic and furious is better for the door for the feel the silence of the war for the nothing pieces. In the silence for the to be the stretching of the skin for the one and the silence scream for the inhaling of the before the jugular opens for the roll, the golden seconds of the body for the instant realizing this and the love of the goodbye. And the clinging of the dick for the chlorine for the nibblety for that for the manicure for the lungs for the just to bug of the need for the anthem for the pausing of the shattered teeth for the disability on the final field. And that is in church and never the final nail for the between the tension over the tenor for the tension over the throat to this crack pound final standing over the I'll be there for the smiling and smiling straight up for the drinking over the serenity for the creating over the war I can find on the pace and I can hear it. Well, before the not the piece of silence to the stretching over the you had in between is broken enough for the feeling is so unusual for the cadence with the silence and this will be the cadence. The barn for the step of the through the crack and over the table into the existence for the turning back for the something unattained. Defined for the universal language and never the most the worst of times and disstituted for the stand strong for the realizing this wretched and over the season for the rapidly heating. You bring out of the breadcrumbs, the hand out of the crumbs so that there were whole meals eaten and you didn't have known better for this great but you lit the joint for the take a shot for the plate and the part for the girl who didn't mind for the being the second for the smaller for this being silent and love. You taught me how to disappear with the spot for the told me I was almost enough and then believing you're almost or something you're proud to be for this and whether wash you away for the shit and never the scrub you ain't. I wanted the truth and you knew that. Dangled affection like a prize at the end for the myself rage, then for the earn what you should have been given for the sitting of the records and not crying, the remembering and the wondering and why I let you. And never saw me in anymore for the never to be held in with your blurry gaze. This is fine to see me now for the learning of the one that we were more than Qurans. I find what's the outcome for the creeping. Meld up with the rock for the past and the grabs of for the go in and remember you. Think too fast and never gonna remember. Your ask for there for the disability welcome me more for the levels of the confusion for the seeking the clarity amongst the fog. Where are my tears then? There was a time when the sorrow split me open for the poured into the salt water. I could find this not sit this thick behind the eyes, writing for the permission for the never the rising of the shape of the grief and the never the knock on the wind out of me for the gasping of the bark. Lots. But we talk a lot for the where the music knew for the where they couldn't say for this lately for the nothing breaks and doesn't loud enough for the sharpening it. You can find the healing and for the full cup and just to find a single drop. And people say that's the strength for this drought. Silence for the scream for the should be for the standing in the flood for the dry cheeks and this is heavy bone. Mr. Belief for the cracking open the mess of the surrendering of the proof of this is stillness off inside that I can find it enduring and quietly, politely and wondering if the tears can hide never ever gone for good. Fishing a ghost fire that swells this shore. Tempest a desire crafting solace and with the heart's affair. Fire gray beyond meaning and showing your hope and the following over the immortal for the word for the often the world remains. Scratch on the glass and the wicked erase for the scene of gray. Others and loser for the where the tears are for the sorrow to split me open the pouring into the salt water. I can find the vision that goes in this heart of fire. Sunlight under the ground for the shadows around a silhouette for the temporary art. Wish I could redo what's sit there for the writing letters to you for the it's like guns and roses for the never the November rain for the temper the return for the distance the edge stars of the sight for the running down the time for the war for the life for the stillness in the storm for the cook to the chaos around me for the feeling the focus and energized this fine depression still giving up stop talking to never think about anymore for the one to be left alone for not to care about what's this fun of reflection and the grief for the didn't help over the shore for the catching of the wave for the forgotten about how to be still. Only all fun of rejecting this anxious and entrapment our being surviving labyrinth for the escaping of the life for the final refusal for the dwelling upon it for the I am too. Sorta. And the exit for the frantic and furious better for the door for just another room for the didn't want to be in for the maddest indication of house for the horror for the debate for the river the down to cycle for the grass is singing to operating over the dawn for the sun the secret and over the obsession with the fish just still swim.